they are no longer a judicial trainees. So they have become all officers, right? So the training period is over. So today's validity section is actually organized for them. They have already begun, I believe, from the 10th of July. So first of all, I wish all of the young junior division officers best in your career. Make proud. Sikkim is about your career as a judges of the Judiciary. When you call the judges, whether you're a junior division or senior division or district judge, high court or Supreme Court, that doesn't make the difference as far as the function and the responsibilities are all. Only maybe in the hierarchy or career, it may be a different role and responsibility you have to play. That doesn't make a difference in ultimate rendering justice as far as the judges is concerned. So once again, I wish all of you the best in your profession as a career. Today's topic, in fact, the role of Constitution in administration of justice. When I thought today's only a validity session, so when Suvarna came to my chamber yesterday, then there is a program before the validity session, and I had to speak. And I said, of course I can speak, but I came not. I'm here to speak to you, not based on an academic way of giving a lecture, which I used to do with you all. I think I had 3 sessions with you all. But it's generally on the topic of your role. Professor Muhamed long back pointed out the people have a wrong impression, the lawyers and judges and others. The human rights and constitution do not have any role in the judiciary, and that is all to be dealt in the constitutional court. That's a wrong impression. I think somebody has wrote, and that's correct. Because my own experience for the last 12 years and my own experience in practicing civil district judicial for 7 years prove that the constitution have never been a matter or human rights, even that extent, are not a matter for consideration in the district judicial. Because they're all trained up in a different way, where you look at the procedures and evidence and you deliberate on many of aspects. Of course, today the bail jurisprudence, when it's being training, is important. You will be given a lot of insight how the bail jurisprudence have been developed into the constitutional mechanism. But nevertheless, by and large, we forget how far the constitutional principles would bind how are to be followed in district judiciary. At the time of the Constitution, there were a lot of deliberations happening in the Constitutional Assembly as to the role of district judiciary, especially when they made provisions from Article 233 to 237 or something, I don't exactly remember. But there are provisions in the Constitution related to district judiciary. The discussion went on because either to the magistrates were under the control of the executive police, and they were not under the control of the judicial wing of the judiciary. So they have under the police wing of the executive wing of state. So that was exactly the discussion went in the Constitutional Assembly, and that is exactly the reason they came under the superintendence of High Court under Article 227. That exactly the provision was made in the Constitution to bring under the district judiciary under control of High Court, not under the executive wing. So we need to look at why that has been brought under the High Court, for obvious reason that to maintain the separation of the power. As you all know, there exists a separation of power under the constitutional scheme, legislature, executive and judiciary. That separation power has to exist in all form. That is exactly the reason the district judiciary was brought under the superintendence of High Court for the purpose of all administration, for all functions and responsibility. Why so? If you look at there is a ideal constitutionalism we often heard is constitutionalism. What is a constitutionalism? So constitutionalism is something is limiting authority and power. That means, as far as the legislators limited their power, because they have to act in accordance with the Constitution. The executive also has to function in accordance with the Constitution. The judiciary also has to function in the Constitution. If there is a checks and balance, there is a checks and balance in the Constitution. As far as the legislative function is concerned, that checks and balance is made through the constitutional courts, where the constitutional courts would interpret the law and balance the legislative functions. But as far as the executive function is concerned, the checks and balances even related down level in the district judiciary. Now, through the constitutional code, the district judiciaries also can act to ensure that the constitutional ideals and separation is followed, or whatever fundamental rights is violated. The district judiciary also is competent to examine. This is how the bail jurisprudence later developed through the principles of interpretation. So constitutional courts, of course, is meant for the certain exemption, certain way of limiting the authority of legislature. If legislature exceeds its roles, the constitutional courts can examine. But executive exceeds its power and authority within your limited spheres, within your domain, within your jurisdiction. You can also examine that power. That exactly is the Constitution is meant under idea of constitutionalism. Well, when you embark upon your new journey as a judicial officer, first of all, you have to look at your responsibility as a judicial officer, which I have already discussed with you on the first of my lectures on leadership, the power of responsibility. Today, when morning I read the Baran bench, I saw the young judicial officer in somewhere in Karnataka, hold up for her behavior. She, one of the bikers had overtaken over something like her car, and she stopped. I think today's Baran bench, I saw that we can read. The young lady officer stopped the biker and abused her verbally, or seems. And that biker was taken into custody of a police case registered. So Karnataka High Court ordered an inquiry, both on administrative side, and take action against her. This exactly happens with every one of us. The moment power comes to us, we forget our responsibility. The power we can abuse, we can use it in whatever manner which we want to use it. It's up to the individuals. Where we have to limit our authority. That's exactly the constitutionalism means. Constitutionalism means the limiting our authority and power. The power comes with responsibility. The responsibility to the office, the responsibility as limited by the law. So we should not forget this aspect. The people look at you today or tomorrow when you function as officers in the district judiciary, not merely by your name. You might be known as a particular person in the past, as a lawyer, as an individual. Today, the people will look at you as an officer, a judicial officer. They don't see a separation you in individual or as an officer. They look at you as an officer. So you represent judicial. You are the face of the judicial. So you need to know your limit of authority. We'll be tempted by many reasons, or we will get provoked for many reasons. But we can't react like an ordinary person, because the moment you become a judicial officer, the individual identity in you is lost. You can't react like an ordinary person. You might have reacted earlier as a lawyer, as an individual, as a member of the civil society. But that is some first limitation here. That's exactly the reflection of constitutionalism as an individual within you. You need to know that you are an officer and you have been limited, your role has been limited. Your public conduct is under the gaze of under the law and higher authorities. You need to know about it. So friends, you assume the office, you have been invested with the power under the law. You can only act in your power, both your private life and public life, in accordance with the restriction attached with your public office. That's the first thing you need to look at yourself. It is not the government conduct rules or other things matters in the first life in your life. You know that your life is limited because of the role you have to play as a judicial officer. Then comes, of course, in the functional responsibility as in the constitutional scheme. What is the functional limitations for functional responsibilities? What are the matters for you, functional responsibility? You are the one dealing with the liberty and life of citizens. You just come in terms of their reality in person. If you look at the Shetty Commission's report, it refers to many aspects. The judicial officers are dealing with the life and liberties of citizens. While the fixing your pay scales and other allowances, the Shetty Commission looked at your role and responsibility under the constitutional scheme. If you read the Shetty Commission's, many youngsters were not aware of the Shetty Commission's report. I think it was prepared long back and it was accepted by the Supreme Court. Still, the Shetty Commission's certain recommendations being now considered by Supreme Court in different level. Even yesterday there was a hearing on the fixation of 3 years in experience. It was Shetty Commissioner. It is in order to attract the best talent from the law colleges and universities, dispensed with 3 years mandatory experience. I think it was initially 3 years or 5 years? 3 years. 3 years. It is only the intention was to attract the best young graduates from the law schools too. But later, many issues came in many places. They feel that without an exposure and without experience, such a dispensation of 3 years would rather create a havoc in the system. It would create a negative effect or impact in the system. That is how the Supreme Court later, in the recent judgment, that decided to dispense with the 3 years. Sorry, it made it mandatory the 3 years. But again, it is arguments have been raised. I think the matter is going on in the Supreme Court, whether there should be a 3 years period or not. That's a matter of different matter. But if you look at the Shetty Commissions, and Shetty Commission how highlights the importance of the district division. When they fixed the pay of a district judge, they made it at the pay scale of the, I think, deputy secretary or someone, in the government level, as a civil servant who obtains IAS and enters at the age of 22, they may become as particular deputy secretary or joint secretary at the age of 35, and made it par with them. So now the district judiciary salary is made at par with such an experienced civil servant. That means how that things are viewed as far as your responsibility and duties. This is how they made the pay scale at par with a person who born in the civil service cadre, who had at least 15 or 14 years experience. So this is how the pay scales of the district judges. So the responsibility as viewed from the constitutional angle, as per the family, is quite high and quite enormous. We need to stand up with the responsibility. So functional level, yes, to what extent, what matters for you? A litigant brought before you, whose life is taken before. There may be innumerable circumstances you become insensitive because of your routine work you're doing. There may be persons of disability whom we have to ensure equality before the court. There may be rich who can afford a bigger lawyer who comes before you. There may be persons who cannot afford an even good lawyer. They may have to rely on legal aid counsels. You will experience a different scenario before your court, whether in civil matter or in criminal matters. Who is the victim? You may not ever seen until the victim is brought before you at the time of trial. There will be numerous circumstances you become insensitive to the woes and grievances. because the space in our courtroom is very limited. They don't have a direct access to you. They have to speak to you through a lawyer. But what is the quality of legal assistance provided to them? Sometimes very extremely poor, sometimes of course good quality. When we see some of the criminal cases here, the way in which the lawyer conduct themselves, the legal aid counsels, they do it whether it's a routine matter. As of them, they get all this kind of the payment if they appear in a particular manner or if they appear put up some appearance. But they are actually jeopardizing the fate of the accused. How many times as a judicial officer we could rise up and point out the quality of defense is poor, and how many of judicials have been reported to the Legal Service Authority as far as the quality of legal service rendered to them. So if you look at in terms of constitution, these are the matters for you. If the quality of legal assistance rendered by the legal aid counsel is quite poor, and according to your mean is not up to the standard, definitely you have to rise up to that occasion. It is not that you are interfering in the proceedings, but you know that you rise up to the constitutional level to protect the interest of the litigant. The way in which they conduct, especially in the various sessions matters, absolutely they have no idea of it. They put routine questions. Some are stated somewhere that questions have been generated by ChatGPT or some AI, and these kind of questions have been put. We remain helpless. We become stoic in those processes. So it has a role in the constitutional scheme as a responsibility attached to you, how you react to those situations, what manner, what extent. You have to consider yourself that the quality of justice is being rendered to those litigants is up to the level of standard expected normally. That's the first check for you. In the constitutional ideas, there are many situations in which comes before you in terms of providing equality of the system. The disabled, the vulnerable, the marginalized community. For us, it may be a routine litigation. So like a surgeon does his surgery. For them, surgeries for any human body, it's routine things. Have we not become a little way an extra mile and become sensitive to the needs of those marginalized, disabled, or backward, tribals? Don't you require to play? Play a role as you're required to discharge your functions? You mean to say that judicial function is only conducting the trial and passing the judgments and orders? That we'll be doing a disservice to the constitutional ideals, which is declared in our constitutions. The judicial officer's role is far beyond that. Of course, that may be a co-function, but there are roles to be played by you at different levels. How about the victims? Are we sensitive to them? Yesterday, we directed one of the cases where the victim was 7 years old and the accused who was convicted by the Boxer Court 20 years imprisonment. She might have grown up now is 11 years. We asked her to get a report. The trauma they suffer. How society have a tendency to victimize a victim further and alienate such victims. What kind of support we could render through judicial functions? How far and what extent we have roped in the legal service authority to assist the victims of sexual violence and otherwise. The legal service authority have a pivotal role in assisting them. What we are to do is only refer such cases and identify such victims required assistance to the legal service authority. When you record the statements of the victim, we have a role. Because you may think that beyond recording the statements, you have nothing to do. In administration of justice, this constitutional ideals comes in different forms. That's again I'm repeating it. You need to be only a little alert and to be sensitive, championing those causes. So what do you mean by fair trial? The fair trial is not merely holding the trial in accordance with the procedure of Civil Procedure Code or Criminal Procedure Code. Fair trial means your conduct, your actions as a judicial officer shall be fit into the all manners which is contemplated under constitutional ideals. It is not merely related to the scheduling the cases for disposal or following the mere procedure under the Criminal Procedure Code Act or Civil Procedure Code Act. It's all related to your approach as a judicial officer in relation to the matter which have come before you. So, young judicial mind, your role as a judicial officer, today, the July 10th onwards, you have been invested with a lot of power. You need to know those powers and responsibilities. Our approach and attitude should reflect those matters which are expected from you in the normal course of the life. So whichever form you functions, whether as a civil officer or dealing with civil cases or in criminal matters, it should reflect in your conduct that your respect attached to your office is not because you are holding a particular office. It is earned through your actions and your conduct. The second thing I want to explain, I mentioned to you, the moment you enter the courtroom, hitherto we have experienced in different road. Maybe in Sikkim it's quite different, but rest of the country it is not that. You can't expect civility from the lawyers. There will be an arrogance. They may act with kind of an abusive language, especially when you find that you are quite young, novice. They may tend to show their color. Bullying, I've seen in my own experience in the portfolio district in Kerala. Young officers, especially the female officers, have been bullied by the very senior member of the bar. Again, I remind you of the power of responsibility, which I mentioned in the earlier. You can't react. You can't retort to them. You have only means, the means of the known under the law, to report such matters or incidents. That's exactly where your maturity will be displayed. That should reflect your conduct. The officer, as an officer of the court, the lawyers are expected to behave in proper manner, but we can't expect in always. Civility is sometimes a miss in that atmosphere, especially in very contentious matters where lawyers quite identify themselves with the cause. You can't expect everyone to behave in the same manner. There will be both behaviors, but you can't react. You can't respond. You can respond, yes, in a manner known under law, or manner established under law. So always remember about your power and power of responsibility. Again, I repeat, throughout I've been lecturing in the leadership, I was repeating that power responsibility is something different. It cannot be taught, but it has to be imparted as a value within you. Third thing is in regard to your own peers and colleagues. That is also important. You may not feel something now, but you may in the course of your career, you may have approach to your own colleagues. All are absolutely nothing wrong in having an aspiration in your own career because it's career related responsibility. Nothing wrong, but cannot be become too ambitious to project, rather than limit yourself within the scheme of the law. You always need to ensure that the discipline all level is maintained throughout your career as an officer. Friends, when you step in as a officer, into the courtroom, the kind of respect you commanded, the respect you earned, your family is also expecting a bigger role for you. Many of your family members are so proud of you. But that pride should remain for you within always. Because they respected you, not because of you as an individual, but because of you are one who are blessed or to adopt that office. They respect because of your office. The lawyers respect you because you are in the power and you are holding that office. But that office is burdened with your certain duties. You have to display humility. You have to be kind. You have to be empathetic. These are all values comes within that power. Whether it be with your colleagues, whether in your office, whether towards the litigant, towards lawyers, all these values should reflect in your conduct and actions. And that will make the difference in your life. Power comes and goes, but what remains is what you have earned through your actions. There are people who, immediately after demitting office, people used to hurt them, they abuse them. But when they have power, they have been worshipped like anything. The moment they lost the power, people have disowned. But there are those who have made their remark. They are based on their approach, their attitude and actions. Their word, those command respect, they have been always respected. So remain there. It's your individual action that matters. Ultimately, that will be counted and respected, and not based on your power. Always keep this in mind. If you want to ask any question, of course, youngsters, you can ask these questions related to your functions and responsibilities. This is a beginning for you, long way for you to go, and I must wish each one of you the very best in every sphere of life. God bless, and the Sikkim Judiciary is looking forward to you as a judicial officer, and you become the beacon of hope for everyone. Thank you, Hon'ble.